Halloween forever.
So, spoiler alerts abound here, guys. We are going to be talking about the newly released in theaters as of today horror flick Barbarian from 2022. Guys, I want to take this opportunity. I don't have a joke or a pun. I just want to have a really quick moment of levity where we explore something that's been on my mind, I know, for a long time, and that, you know, I've been laboring under this for years now. And this proves it in a lot of ways. Meg loves incest so much. She fucking loves it. Every movie you've ever suggested has incest in it. I now have like five examples of this, guys. We'll get into it. We're gonna unpack why Meg loves incest so much.
I don't like how this show started.
Welcome, boys and ghouls, to another fucking Minisode of Halloween is Forever. I'm Brian.
I'm upset.
Yeah.
I'm Champ.
So, guys, going way back, for those of you who have been fans of the show, have been loyal listeners to the show, and for those of you who haven't, again, fuck you,
but welcome.
Yeah, fuck you, welcome.
We love you.
Meg started out very, very early on. She won the very first Showdown episode, and then the very first thing she suggested that we watch was The Strange Thing About the Johnsons, which is incest. A lot of incest. I mean, that's pretty much the whole
film.
Like, you could go as far as to say it's a monster movie and the monster is incest.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me break down that with horror these days. What is the scariest thing besides what happens in reality? Yeah. I'm not defending myself at this
but
point,
you did suggest
with the
this
movie we're
movie.
Going to talk about tonight, I didn't even know what I was going to walk into. So fuck you, Brian.
Going back, I think now this is the fifth example of like intense
You're coming at me and I don't like
incest themes in the movie. It's like one of them. You do it. Okay. So it happens one time. You're like, oh, that's, one time. Okay, whatever. It could happen to anybody. Twice. Oh, that's a little bit weird. Three. Now we're getting into a weird coincidence. Once you get into like 4 and 5 time ranges that you specifically suggest 100% of the incest movies. Now we're like, okay, so this is strange. We got to figure this. Yeah,
I don't like what you're insinuating right now at all. I just don't. It's a strange thing about Halloween is Forever. Let's be real.
Yeah, yeah. So we are going to spoil the absolutely ever loving shit out of this movie. So if you have not seen it, I would say that this is one of those movies that you definitely don't want to be spoiled. You want to go in as blind as you can, which is what I did. I was fortunate enough for this and Nope, really. I didn't know much about that before I went in. Mm-hmm. Really enjoyed the hell out of them. And I think maybe this movie more than Nope, I think I would have been okay if I didn't know. Oh, maybe not. I don't know. We'll wait and get into it. I don't want to make that statement necessarily right off the bat. But we're going to get into Zach Cregger's feature debut, Barbarian, here in a hot sec. But for those of you who are new to the show, on account of this time of year, we got a whole bunch of sumbitchin' freeloaders. They come over here. They're like, what's new? What's new? Halloween, going into the search engine. And then they find us, and then they come over here, and they have the goddamn nerve and audacity to listen to our podcast. And it's bullshit, you guys. If you're not going to listen every single episode, we have a lot of new listeners this time of year. So I like to explain what we try to accomplish on this here podcast. So what we do is once a month, we have a showdown episode. We have an episode every damn Monday comes out. But on the first Monday of the month, we have a showdown episode. And what we do leading up to that showdown episode is we have this big old spinning wheel that has a bunch of topics on it that were created either by us or suggested by listeners, social media friends. They're subgenres, they're topics of discussion, they're whatever. We spin that wheel, we get 3 of them. We put it on the social medias and we let our friends and followers and listeners vote. They vote on a topic. Once we have that topic, we pick a movie that pertains to that topic. We watch them, we argue about it, and then we vote, and eventually somebody reigns supreme, takes home the motherfucking championship belt, that little bit of shoulder candy for that month. They get to flaunt it around. They get to take down Giant Eagle when they're buying their apple cider and their candy corn, swing it around, walk to all four corners of the building, do pose on the turnbuckle. And then the next month, it starts all over again. So if you want to help us do that in the future, whether it be suggest topics or vote or do something like that, go ahead and check us out over on our social medias. It's at Halloween is Forever on Instagram, at Hallow Forever on Twitter, Halloween is Forever Podcast on Facebook, at Halloween is Forever Pod on TikTok, I think, and Halloween is Forever pod at gmail.com. Or is it just Halloween is Forever at gmail.com? I always forget
the pod's on the Gmail.
The pod portion is on the Gmail.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Don't email us. What are you, my fucking mom?
You
don't need to email. Don't send a fucking email. DM us.
Mom would have written a letter.
Yeah.
Okay, let's be real.
Self-addressed stamped envelope. But speaking of envelopes, if you do feel so inclined, if you like this here podcast and you decide to rate or review us on the Apple Podcasts or the Spotify's of the world, go ahead, give us a 5-star review. First of all, just learned this. Never noticed it before. Bunch of fucking people have reviewed us on Apple Podcasts, wherever. They give us the 5-star review. They say, I like this podcast, whatever. And then if you want to, show me that. Tell me you did that. And then send me a DM on the Instagrams. And then I'll send you some damn Halloween is Forever stickers in the mail. Some son of a bitch, some rat fuck gave us a 3-star at some point.
What a bitch.
So we're at the 4.9 right now.
Scumbag.
And it's pissing me off. And listen, if you're listening right now, you gave me a 3-star, I'm challenging you publicly to a no holds barred Extreme Rules match. Tax. We're going razor wire. We're going tables. No holds barred. Extreme Rules. All right. Coffin
We're
match.
a very serious
also.
show, and we take all of these reviews very seriously. And Brian will come fuck up you guys. So let's fucking go.
Here's the bullshit of this. This is the first I'm learning of it.
Yeah.
And I guarantee that person who dropped that 3 stars didn't have the courage to write why.
Didn't have the balls. Didn't have the fucking sack. You piece of motherless shit. Just we're cutting promos now.
Yeah.
I love how
we don't take criticism well is what we're really coming out and
this
saying
person
right now.
that may or may not exist. They might be a fucking Russian bot or something. We're just cutting promos, insulting them. The cream rises to the top. All right. So
everybody knows that you ain't got the courage, huh? Yeah.
All right. So, like I said, follow us over on there. We have a lot of fun over on the social medias. Speaking of Showdown episodes, we are coming up here pretty damn close to the end of September, which means, guys, you know what's happening after September. It's fucking full on spooky season, and we're gonna have a lot of fun Halloween themed, episodes and discussions and that sort of stuff. Content floating around out there on the social medias and the internets. But we are going to do what is now officially become a tradition, because it's the second year we're doing it. We're doing our John Carpenter Showdown episode, which means instead of us taking those suggestions that you guys give us, we just put all of John Carpenter's movies on a big old dang wheel and we spin it. Now we specifically focus on the spooky ooky ones, and then we get randomly assigned one. We have to watch it. We have to defend it. Interestingly enough, last week, we did the wheel for the John Carpenter episode. So for those of you who are new, I'll be recapping this right now. Here's what ended up happening. Meg ended up with The Thing.
Yeah, motherfucker.
Which is just an absolute, you're just running into a monster hand there. Steve ends up with Halloween, the fucking perennial classic. I mean, these are probably my 2 favorite movies in the world. I end up with Assault on Precinct 13, which is a completely out of left field a movie for Halloween, but a great movie, but it isn't going to stand up to the other 2. So essentially what our next Showdown episode is Steve versus Meg, the fucking showdown, the slobber knocker, the barn burner of the John Carpenter films out there, The Thing versus Halloween. And guess who's going to be essentially deciding which one wins? You guys can't see right now. It's a podcast. I'm pointing at my own face. So I'm going to be figuring this out. I'm breaking spooky season for the podcast.
You're the special guest referee, essentially.
I'm Mike Tyson. Yeah, I'm Mike Tyson, the special guest referee.
I think the entire episode you have to talk like Mike Tyson.
Yeah, I'll have to work on that. I have to figure out, perfect my Mike Tyson impression. I might just be. What if Glenn Danzig was the special guest referee? If any wrestling promotions, indie, small, regional wrestling promotions that are out there, please bring Glenn Danzig in for a special guest referee spot. I just saw him pop up, a young Glenn Danzig. I was watching one of my favorite just compilation films of all time, which is Everything is The Great Satan. You're seeing Everything is Terrible's The Great Satan. It's on Tubi. Watch it. Get really stoned. You're gonna your stomach's gonna hurt from laughing. It's so awesome. But they do inject those few little clips of Danzig going like, "Hey, you ever heard about the lost books of the Bible?" You know, he's just saying stupid shit like that. He's just like trying to be an edgelord. It's awesome.
Does he talk about boobs?
Oh, I'm sure they cut it through. He was probably like, hey, "Yeah, you know why I like the Bible so much? There's so many fucking titties over here."
Did you read that last Gospel of Thomas? It's where Jesus touches some boobs.
Freaking big old boobs. So, guys, get ready for that next month, the first Monday in October. What damn day of the
October the 3rd.
The 3rd. Well, of course, the 3rd. Check that out. It's going to be a lot of fun. That's when that some bitch is going to drop. Now, let's get into, before we get into the movie, let's do a little, as is tradition here. What beers is you guys drinking?
I am being consistent on my end. I mean, of course, I have a Modelo as my sidecar, but my roommate brought back basically Hitchhiker's collaboration with Maggie's Farm, which is also a painkiller inspired beer.
Yeah, that's been your jam.
Hurts. Yeah, I'm like 2 weeks in a row I get to try this. I haven't actually taken a sip yet.
I like that one.
No, it's really actually really good. It's really nice.
Yeah.
Very like orange forward. You get like coconut, a little bit like coconut sweetness like on the back end. Good body.
Meg brought me one of those painkiller ones. Who made the who was it? It was Prairie, right? The Prairie one brought me one. We went to the
it, I think.
I definitely slammed it in the parking lot outside Stage AE before the Idol show. We shotgunned some beersies. I slammed a couple of those.
Video to you.
Oh yeah, you did take a video. I forgot about that. Yeah, so it was pretty good though. And I'm not usually a big fruit beer kind of guy, but it was pretty enjoyable. I am also very much on brand for what I'm drinking. I am drinking a little Oktoberfest Märzen beer, Bavarian style Märzen beer. This is from Enegren Brewing. Which I've had their beers on the show before. My friend Scott from Southern California, sent me a little care package of Enegren beers. And they're all so fucking good. But this is their Märzen, which I don't know if I had last year. I don't remember. But it's fucking delightful, as all of their lager beers are. So I got a Schwartz beer. I had like a single hop Pils. There's something else. What else do I have in there? I don't know. A lot of fun beers. They do some smoked beers. I'm just, really traditional German style, really well made German style lager. So, like I said, on brand. Let's see if Steve makes it 3 for 3 in terms of on brand beers.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm drinking gas, so yes.
Yeah. Drinking a little bit of the Zoom juice, is ya?
Yeah, so I had this beer, and I'm just like, it's been sitting in my fridge, and it sat for too long, and now it's just been too long. I just have to pinch my nose and drink it. But it's actually not terrible. It's drinkable, but I don't love it. It's probably better when it's fresh. It is the Roke Brewing Company. They're out of Royal Oak, Michigan, and it's ROAK. Yeah. It's their Blow Your Face Out Double IPA. It is a 10.5% ABV, 100 IBU.
Jesus. What the fuck?
What is this, 2008?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
I was also thinking the same thing. Like, this is the shit that you would see.
It's Stone Ruination.
That beer is actually from 12 years ago.
Yeah.
You just
it was super it was super on trend when he bought it.
It's hard to tell if like all the unpleasant flavors are because of what it is or because it sat so long. So I don't know.
When's it from? How old is this beer?
I think it's got to be at least like 9 months, if not more. It might be like a year old, because I bought it at Vintage and I bought it with the like purpose of being on the other podcast, and then I just never put together a show with it, and then just. Yeah, so it's been sitting in my fridge, and I'm just like, well, all right.
Well, no, at least it's been refrigerated.
Yeah.
So, yes, but of course that
you're kind of experiencing your own horror film by drinking it at this point too. You know, you like there's a lot of suspense leading up to it. You know, you take your first sip, you're like a little scared. It's great.
You're right.
We should probably think about like a craft beer horror film of like, all of a sudden you wake up and your entire cellar went bad overnight. And...
the first.
But it would be because some entity took over and it just turned all the beer bad.
The first, you're right though, Meg, because the first bit of horror I had was when I opened the can, I didn't know what was going to happen, so I opened it over the sink, and then there was just like no carbonation. Like,
oh no!
I was like, oh no,
and no. Yep, 9-month-old double IPA. I heard that's hot in the streets now. That's what the kids are into.
Why did you not try to sell this?
Yeah, my bad.
All right. So let's get into this son of a bitchin' movie. Again, I will reiterate once again, if you haven't watched this movie and you have any intentions of watching this movie, we're going to spoil the ever-loving shit out of it. And it's a movie that is definitely one you want to go in blind to, because there's some cool, twisty-turny stuff that are going to lose a lot of its mustard if you go in knowing what the fuck it is, obviously. So
you don't want to lose your mustard.
Listen,
you don't want it to
that's
go
something my
shirt.
granddaddy always told me. Don't lose your mustard. That old Western Pennsylvania phrase. Don't lose your mustard. So let's we'll go plot synopsis but we won't go through every single part of it. But we also saw this separately, and we all saw it within the last few days, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw it last night.
You saw last night, so it's pretty fresh in everyone's mind. First thoughts, high level thoughts. How did you feel about it? Did you know anything going in, and how did you feel coming out?
This is the weirdest Whitest Kids You Know sketch. Wasn't that funny?
Right.
Where was Timmy? I didn't get any of the characters. It didn't make a whole lot of sense as a Whitest Kids sketch.
Long for a sketch, too. Yeah,
very long sketch.
Yeah. We should say, I didn't mention at the top of the show that the director who Zach I keep wanting to say Cregger, I keep want to say Cregger, but Zach Cregger. He was a cast member and part of the sketch comedy troupe Whitest Kids You Know, which used to have actually it was a really great show. And I think he and who was the name, because there was one gentleman who's on that passed away.
Yeah, he and Trevor Moore were kind of
Trevor Moore. That's right.
They kind of headed it up, but like everybody was a writer on that show, so yeah.
So very, very obviously known from the comedy world, and this is his first feature-length directing debut. I think he did have another movie back in like 2012 or something. I don't know if it was feature-length. I never saw it, but I do know that it
Miss March?
Yes, horrible reviews. I did see Miss March.
It was directed by both Trevor and Zach. Miss March. It has it's a bad movie, but it has two.
Did you see it?
Oh yeah. It's one of those movies that I watch like on the down low and kind of regularly.
Not down low anymore,
kind of
bro.
regularly.
Yeah, like every now and then I'll pop it on, because it has just like, I don't know, it just has a couple really great bits. It is like, I don't know, you can't. It's bad though. Like,
is it a comedy?
It's a comedy, but it's like super problematic in a lot of ways, and it's like, it's very funny though.
All right, now I want to watch it. I just saw that it had like unbelievably bad reviews.
Oh yeah, it's terrible, but like also it has funny bits. So
yeah.
I was gonna say so high level review. Like I feel like I walked into it with knowing how many crazy positive reviews that were like coming around. They're like, oh, this is the scariest movie of 2022. And when you get those, you have to walk into it being like, it's either being overhyped at this point, or this is totally going to be on point. And I think I'm leaning more towards it's mildly a little overhyped personally. I felt like for being as long of a movie as it was, which again, what is it, like 140, like 145 ish, an hour 45 minutes or so.
It was 145, 150, something like that.
Yeah, so that's like a longer horror movie, and I feel like the pace worked because of the way it was broken up, which we'll talk about. Yep. So I felt like that felt good. There were some fun parts. I think Justin Long played it. Like, I think the actors made the movie better than the overarching movie itself.
Yeah. Good performances, good, well shot. Yeah.
Yeah, the shot. I was gonna say that might have been one of my really positive takeaways. I think like the sound was great in it. I think the shots were really great in it. Characters were really good. Bill Skarsgård was amazing, though he I thought he was going to play a bigger character in it. He didn't. Justin Long was a douche, and you loved how much of a douche he was. You're like, wow, like that you are on point for every single step of this. But and then there was like this almost emotional element at the end that I kind of liked. So there were a lot of elements that I liked about the film that we'll dive into, but I think overarching, it was a little overhyped, but good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I agree with a lot of the same things that, I think we're on the same page here. Is I really liked it. I thought it was really well done. And despite being over an hour and 45 minutes, it felt pretty tight, I thought. Also, movies, for whatever reason, for me, don't drag in the theater the way that they drag when I'm watching them at home. So I think I'm a little bit more forgiving to longer movies, and also probably because most of the movies I watch in theater are obviously modern movies, and they tend, modern horror movies tend to be a little longer. You know what I mean? The It's and things of the world that, 2+ hours. But I think it's coming back around because I'm seeing a lot of really tight, 80 under 90 minute horror movies coming out now, which I hope is a trend we continue seeing. But I went in with high expectations because people were talking so much about just how scary it is and everything. And that was a good thing and a bad thing for me, because anytime you feel anything hyped, you know what I mean, it has to live up to this expectation, which is not a positive thing. But the other positive thing was I fell for the trailer, and which we'll talk about in a sec. But the trailer is a complete misdirect.
Yeah.
Which they did a good job of, which I think, that's becoming, people are getting more clever with that, because it became this thing in the zeitgeist in recent years where especially I think about the Halloween, 2018 Halloween, where it's so many of the best scenes were in the trailer, and people were really pissed about that. And even Halloween Kills, same thing. And, some, Candyman, all this stuff, you're seeing so much of the movie in the trailers. And now people are going the opposite direction and going we're going to actually use the trailers as an opportunity to just completely fuck with the audience's expectations, which I kind of like. I think that's fun. And this one, we'll get into it here in a sec, but, when you see Bill Skarsgård, huge, giant actor, and obviously, plays Pennywise, he's
kind of literal giant.
That's true. Although the guy who played the I'll say the monster in this movie, which we'll get to, a guy named Matthew Patrick Davis, he's 6'8" or 6'9" in real life. Yeah. He's fucking huge. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh, yeah. So this one definitely throws you for a little bit of a loop here. But Steve, did you have anything to add to that before we go through the cast a little bit?
I was just going to say just two quick parts. The one comparison I heard pretty often was everybody was comparing it to Malignant. And and that's the thing is it just didn't live up to that Malignant reveal.
No, it wasn't. No, same. Yeah. I liked Malignant way more.
Yeah. And the other thing is just I didn't necessarily fall for the trailer.
Oh, okay.
I kind of expected something more than what was being led on, especially after everybody was word of mouthing this film. I was oh, well, there's no way that Bill Skarsgård is the villain of this.
Yeah, you knew there was going to be something twisty, right. But I didn't think it was going to be, essentially a monster movie. I thought it was going to be a fucked up, sadistic serial killer 70 type of thing that goes to a crazy level. That's, and also I kind of didn't care about this movie at all. It wasn't on my radar before it came out, and there just wasn't anything that caused me to be I can't wait till this comes out, like, and pay attention to trailers or anything about it. So it's just like, for me, I just took it at face value.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it kind of came out of nowhere. You know what I mean? It doesn't have any. Yeah. All of a sudden, you're like, wait, Bill Skarsgard's in this movie? Justin Long's in this movie? Like,
yeah, I mean, I didn't see a lot being pushed at me like online, but I had been going to movies fairly regularly, like specifically, obviously, horror. And it it caught my attention like a while ago, you know, at least that it was interesting. But I think like I might have gotten tricked in like thinking that Bill Skarsgard, like I think I already said Bill Skarsgard was going to have like a bigger role in it. And I think like one of the downfalls of this is that, again, the pace was good, but I think because of the pace, you kind of knew what was going on by the time we had the reveal.
Yeah.
Like you knew, like you totally, before the last half hour, 20 minutes of the movie where we're really getting a lot of the action happening, you kind of are like, okay, like I'm here for it. I understand. It kind of reminded me like sometimes with like when you watch, say, American Horror Story, where you're like the first couple episodes are really scary and you're like, whoa, this is like an amazing concept. And then all of a sudden you get these mid couple episodes and you get the reveal. And then the rest of it is boring. And you're like, wow, this is stupid now.
Yeah. You know what? The biggest, thing, like pleasant surprise for me in this one is I'm always excited when I'm just watching a movie, you know, tra-la-la-la-la, just kind of skipping along. And all of a sudden Richard Brake shows up. Like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh, no. He's spooky. I love him so much.
Good.
Like,
and he's so scary and
good.
Everything. And I just fucking love Richard Brake.
It's just his face.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, you were born for horror.
He is. And it's not like he's like a...
It's not that he's ugly. It's just that he's
not ugly. He's like a handsome guy, but he's just.
It's just harsh.
He's sinister.
Yeah. Like it's like this tall, lanky, but he has this almost outlaw cowboy vibe of him, where you're like, I know you probably could fuck some shit
He's
up.
very expressive without being. I don't know. That's a bad way of saying it. He's very he communicates a lot with his face without being super expressive. I guess
he kind of has like kind of the same cut to his face that like Michael Rooker does.
Yeah,
like they both have just
very
like
angular features and
just super sharp and super like just like intense. You know, without moving too much of their face, and it's just like
square jawed, just like looks like he's clenching his teeth all the time. So we'll get it. Let's get into the cast then, because this first person here I had never seen. Apparently she's in a really good episode of Black Mirror, I think, which I haven't seen that episode. But her name is Georgina Campbell, and she plays Tess, who's kind of the main or one of the main protagonists in the film.
She has a very familiar face, but I could not place her, and I tried to look, and I'm like, these are a lot of like. Not like them, like they'll sound like TV. Like she played a lot of TV.
Yeah, she's on BBC.
Like,
she's on BBC television. She's a British actress. Okay. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, she had a familiar face, but I couldn't put her anywhere. But.
Yeah, she's like very pretty. Like just I think she looks like she has a very like similar look that they're trying to like cast a lot of like millennial. Like actors, you know what I mean? I just feel like they probably have a type, and I don't know who it's based on. They're like, oh, we're going for this type kind of thing. But she, like I said, she
a Zendaya type.
Yeah, perhaps.
Yeah.
So she's, but she did a fantastic job. Which now I want to go see that episode of Black Mirror that she was in, because I heard it was a really good one. So she plays Tess, and then Bill Skarsgard plays Keith. And then later we get Justin Long, who plays AJ. And then, like I said, we have Richard Brake as Frank, which we'll talk about a little bit here. And then we do get that Matthew Patrick Davis as kind of the monster character, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes. And there's some other like tertiary characters. Andre is played by James Butler, who I don't know him either. I don't recognize him either. But Andre was the homeless guy, kind of living in the neighborhood. Anyway, we'll talk about that, as we get into it. And there's some tertiary characters and stuff. But that's kind of the main cast. And it really the first act focuses on Tess. And she is, she's got an Airbnb reservation. She's going to Detroit for a job interview. And she books this kind of not on purpose, books this Airbnb in a not good, looks to be a pretty downtrodden neighborhood, potentially dangerous neighborhood based on, what she's hearing in the neighborhood and things that she obviously are proven to her later. She goes to the Airbnb. It's like a dark and stormy night kind of thing. I heard somebody actually describe this as almost like oh, never mind. I'm thinking of a different movie. Never mind completely. I was going to say, because this reminded me of Clue a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
When they come to the door in the night. But then I was listening to a podcast recently, and somebody was describing a different movie that just came out not long ago as like the Clue of this generation or whatever. They weren't talking about this movie, but this does remind me of the intro, to Clue a little bit, where you're like, or even Rocky Horror Picture Show, I guess. It's the classic dark and stormy night. You're broken down on the highway. You're walking through the rain. You knock on the creepy door. But she booked this Airbnb. She goes to to go in. The key's not there. She bangs on the door, and Keith, Bill Skarsgard's character, comes to the door, and he is really laying on the I'm creepy but trying to be not creepy.
Yeah, like I'm the cool guy. Yeah. Like everything's chill. Like this is totally unplanned. Blah blah blah. But you have a feeling like maybe it's a red herring of sorts, like that they play onto that. You feel like maybe it could be the trailer, but also you kind of feel that way with him, that he's not super trustworthy at first.
Yeah, they are red herring you pretty hard here. Because he's trying to do this thing of like
eating a lot of herring like a good Swede.
It's you're getting your fill of herring here.
That's right, Meg. You should have figured it out that way. Swedes and herring. God damn. Yeah.
So
I knew I was going to drop it at some point, y'all.
Well, because it seems like he's
he's a nice
gaslighting her.
Well, it seems like he's doing the I'm a nice guy routine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but she's also like, they're making it very clear that she's very cognizant of what's happening, so much so that she's like very diligent about like locking her door. So I'm jumping ahead, but basically what happens is they come to the conclusion that they've double booked this Airbnb, or that's what he's telling her, is that I booked this, and she's like, I booked this months ago, and they're like, all right, we'll try and get in touch with the owner. They're not able to get in touch with the owner. It's dark and stormy night, bad neighborhood, whatever. Hey, you should just crash here. I'll sleep on the couch. You can go in the bedroom. So she locks herself in the bedroom. She goes as far as like going through his things and taking a picture of his ID, and just doing things to just like, she's very skeptical of him.
Oh, totally. And but I feel like again, with back to the red herring of it all, is that like it almost feels like he is pandering to her. That's how it feels.
Yeah, it feels like he's kind of gaslighting her into going like, no, I'm really a nice guy. Like, I know this is a sketchy situation, but there's nothing to be worried about. I
literally thought he was lying about his career and his background. Like, I for a moment, I was like, no, you're just making this up. Yeah,
same. I think, and that's obviously what they wanted you to think.
Right.
And so it was, done really well in this instance. And then, she wakes up and her bedroom door is open. And then you hear these like feet slapping running down the hallway. Like somebody's not being subtle about what's happening. And this is a scene that was actually in the trailer. And then she ends up hearing him like talking in his sleep. And then they have this little, awkward situation that happens. And she goes back and falls asleep. So she's like, well, maybe it wasn't him because he's talking in his sleep. I don't know. But you're like, is he gaslighting her? Is he like kind of playing her here? But the next morning, she wakes up and, he's gone for the day. She goes to the job interview. And the people at the job interview actually go as far as to say, like, you probably shouldn't be in that neighborhood. But then whenever she comes back, she gets chased as she comes to the house by the guy you later learn to be Andre, this homeless guy who's basically saying like, you got to get out of this house, get the fuck out of there kind of thing. So it's like this, omen, harbinger of doom kind of character. But you think, oh, is he mentally ill? Like what's happening? You don't really know.
Yeah. just one of the things that is like really important to this is like we talked about the way it's filmed and everything. And one of the things that this film does really great is just the feeling of darkness and oppression, just like darkness all around you and surrounding you. And that's what you get at the start of the film is like, none of the houses around the Airbnb have lights on. You can't see into the neighborhood. You can't see like 5 feet beyond your face.
Yep.
And then it's after she wakes up in the morning that she sees how fucking terrible the neighborhood is. Like everything is bombed out and destroyed. And like, it looks, more or less like a war zone that they're in with this one weird house standing by itself.
Yeah, and this is the interesting thing about this. I learned later. I was listening to a podcast actually with Zach Cregger talking about it. Is he actually shot this in Bulgaria? And
really,
yeah, and I guess that's where they're shooting the new Toxic Avengers movie. And like, so a lot of people are I guess Bulgaria is becoming kind of a hot spot to like shoot on a budget.
Am I remembering incorrectly where Midsummer? Wait, where was Midsummer filmed?
I think it was Romania or Bulgaria.
Romania. Romania is a big spot and has been for a few years to go. And this is the first movie that I heard of in Bulgaria, and I was like, oh, maybe that's the new like, cool, cheap place to shoot. And I think he said in the interview I was listed that there were 9 other American productions happening in Bulgaria at that same time. So
that's wild.
Yeah, it sounds like this is like the new hot, cheap place to, you can get good quality work done. And they have, they can pull together professional crew for, on the cheap kind of thing. Because I think I looked, this movie was like a $10 million budget, but it was greenlit by 20th Century Fox before Disney bought them. So I think it was like one of those things where it was like grandfathered in kind of thing. But then Disney ended up, saying like, oh, we got this horror movie, in the hopper. Okay. Let's not really put a lot of promotion out there. Let's do a wide theatrical, release on a relatively cheap, shoot, and let's make a bunch of money. And they have, I think it was the number one, grossing movie the weekend it released. So they marketed it really well. Like, and it's one of those things where you like to, as a film fan, be like, oh, they created that, that trailer as a way to like, trick you and blah, 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 all the stuff. But really, it, kind of all marketing stuff. Like the director has absolutely no say in what the trailer cut looks like, but certainly not for a, movie owned by a subsidiary of Disney,
Luckily though, they recognized the value in marketing it the way they did.
Yeah, they
rather
did.
than
and they
giving
did a great
it away.
job of it. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And just throwing it on Hulu or some shit. The other thing though, is that neighborhood. The one thing he said was that in Bulgaria, like nothing looks like America, like the architecture, the build, no houses look like it. So they actually built that neighborhood in the middle of a field. And so most of the houses are just like facades, basically, which I imagine it's easy to make a really shitty looking neighborhood out of facades. You know what I mean? But,
Rob Zombie is just done the same exact thing for the Munsters. He built the entire like neighborhood in an Eastern. I'm looking right now to see if it was also. Oh, he did it in Hungary. So he just built the entire neighborhood in Hungary because they're like, the architecture doesn't look right, and also Munster House.
Hungary is one of the few places where maybe there is a house that looks like the Munster's house. I don't know.
Maybe the mild ethical part of me is like, yeah, but what are they doing with all these structures afterwards? Or they're just like tearing them all down, or they're like, I don't know.
I think a lot of them, it's just facades. You know what I mean? Like they're not building the entire home. And the interior shots are obviously happening in at a different, in an established, spot. But it's probably getting all torn down. I
don't think they're building full ghost towns like the way you see, like there were ghost towns in the Old West.
Yeah, well, just still the exploitive nature of it. It's just interesting to watch within like the film world that we're like kind of seeing now. I think like the more we do the show.
Yeah, there's definitely an exploited exploitative nature to even going over to these countries, because I mean you're looking to save as much money as you can and get things made on the cheap and done on the cheap, but at the same time
and circumvent union labor and all that stuff too.
Yeah.
I'm almost like just hypothesizing too with like what streaming has kind of done and why they're doing these type of things, but that could be a whole other conversation.
Sure. Yeah.
Anywho, moving on. Movie.
Yeah. So, Tess is searching for like toilet paper or something, I think, at that point. And she ends up down in the basement. Bad idea, but she ends up down in the basement. And then she locks herself down in the basement. So she's searching, trying to figure out how to get out of there. And then she finds this secret, like, corridor thing, which there's like this rope through the wall and it's clearly meant to keep someone in kind of thing. It seems pretty clear.
Right.
And then she finds this really, creepy classic room you would expect in like some sort of like abduction movie where there's just like a stained gross mattress with a a camcorder kind of pointed at it type of thing.
We got the shit pot too.
Yeah.
Though,
the old shit pot. Yeah, you never want to see that.
Make that.
Yeah, you never want to see a shit pot when you walk into a room. That's usually a frowny face. But she gets the fuck out of there, and Keith lets her out, and then once he gets back. And then she tells him, what's going on down there. And he goes to check it out. And he doesn't come back. And then that's when I fuck off. But she goes back down.
Wait, can I ask you, what was your initial thought? Because I had an initial thought.
About her decision to go down there?
No.
Or what was going to be the case?
Keith having disappeared.
Yeah.
I think this is where, obviously the red herring is completely shattered at this point, but they still, up to this point, are still making you believe that somehow he is part of all of this that's going on.
Yes. I didn't know if it was going to be some like wacky cult thing or something. Like I knew there was going to be some sort of big, I don't say twist, but it was going to go crazy because otherwise people weren't going to talk about it like they did. And like, even, we talked about Malignant, you knew there was this big crazy batshit thing that happens and everything was pretty standard for a while. But the thing that happened is so batshit that it truly lived up to the hype. This thing, I was almost expecting. I think Malignant ruined all twists for me forever because it's the greatest twist in cinema history. No, but it's seriously, it's so this one, I was like, are they going to try to do something like that? Are they going to do it where, Bill Skarsgard's a fucking giant spider or some dumb shit? You know what I mean? That's kind of what I had in my head is he's a fucking alien or he's doing, whatever. But I saw people describe this movie too as sadistic. Like I saw a quote or something like it was some sort of sadistic movie. And I was like, okay, so that leads me to believe there's like a torture component, So I'm like, who is doing the torturing? Is it Bill Skarsgård? Is he like, I almost expected him to be like the toady of some other, super serial killer. That's kind of where I thought it was going. Yeah. Or a cult or fucking aliens or fucking druids or some shit like that.
Yeah, I thought this was a cult movie because, I don't know, there was something in the promotions that I saw that was like, I think it was centered around like that TV we eventually see.
Oh, yeah.
There was something about that I saw, like the TV, and it's like, oh, it's some sort of reprogramming. Like they take people into the basement and reprogram them for whatever,
and like a Stockholm syndrome type of thing or something. And maybe Bill Skarsgård was originally a victim or something like that. Yeah, no, that's kind of the rough direction I was thinking too. Meg, what did you think?
I honestly thought it was more like Bill Skarsgård was part, like he at some point was the lure to the house. Like that's kind of where I was at mentally. And I thought that he somehow was then going to like you saw the basement, you knew something was going on down there. But I thought that, again, Bill Skarsgård, Keith was going to be luring people down there and then something else was going to happen. That was my thought.
Yeah.
That's where I was at. And then this obviously was the moment we completely were like, nope, this isn't happening.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I was going to suggest that we refer to Bill Skarsgård as Billy Skateboards. I just think that's a very
God, I love that.
funny way of referring to
but
him.
I also feel like you're now demeaning the his Scandinavian background.
Billy
because his last name is-
Skateboards.
Yeah.
That's a sick name.
Yeah.
Because I mean, what are you going to do to my last name next?
I'll think of something.
Also,
yeah,
skateboards.
Yeah, it's all your
All the
nickname's also
Scandinavian names are
Skateboards.
just like skateboards.
Scar.
Oh my
I just
God.
kept saying Skarsgård when I was talking to this movie. Skarsgård, and I just eventually it just sounded like I was saying like a weird, when you say like podcast and all that stuff. But Skarsgård, skateboard, Billy Skateboard.
How do you feel about Meggie Sea-Doo?
Oh my God, I hate you so bad. For everyone who doesn't know my last name, Seastead. My last name is Seastead.
Maggie Sea-Doo, Maggie Sea-Doo, and Billy Skateboards.
Skateboards.
I mean, I guess it's the closest thing because, like the meaning of my name is like related to the sea. So I mean, whatever.
We should that's a T-shirt. It's Billy Skarsgård with his one, floating eye, with like a hat on sideways, Jenkos holding a fucking sick blind board.
Oh my God! But still, like the craziest face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, he's great. He's fucking fantastic. Yeah. Love me some Billy Skateboards. But so
I mean, but the whole idea of that room, though, too, I think it definitely gives you this hint of like, there's something greater going on that we don't understand. And then all of a sudden Keith like disappears and you're like, no, this is her trap. This is when she's going to get caught. Like somehow a door is going to shut or blah, blah, blah. Like she's going to be caught.
Yeah.
But I do like the cult angle because I feel like that's how it feels. But let's go on and actually tell the people who haven't seen it, who are now wanting us to spoil the fuck out of this for them.
Yeah, we're getting there. So basically she goes back down to, play hero and find him, and he gets down there and you can hear him like screaming and stuff, so it's pretty creepy, very tense scene. And the whole movie's like pretty tense, which, they do a great job of building that tension up. And then finally he does the old like jumping, screaming out of the tunnel, and it almost reminded me of VHS 94 a little bit. Like when they're going down that corridor thing. Mm-hmm. And then he pops out with his crazy Billy Skateboard face. And, you're like, what's happening? Is he still trying to like fuck with her or what? Is this like a big game to him? And, he's saying that someone bit him or something bit him.
Yeah.
And they're all freaking out, panicking, and all of a sudden,
but we still don't fully believe him.
You don't believe him.
As much as she started trusting him, I think at this point we still have not, as an audience, trusted him. Yep. So like she's still like, I no, I'm not going to follow you this way. Mm-hmm. No, this is you're telling me you're going to go into the fucking fire.
Because he's trying to drag her in a direction, and then the other thing is like he says he got bit, but like and this is just good on the camera work and everything, is like you never actually see him injured. Like he doesn't look injured in what you're saying.
A bite or anything, right? It's not like his arm's off. Mm-hmm.
I do want to add though that like I think all of the scariest elements are just down in this cave, and I think they did a great job with not only obviously the character we'll eventually like totally introduce, just like the way they worked with the shadows and just the panic that you feel within it. And I feel like almost the soundscape within it like kind of lowers in this period. Like, so you're creating your own tension because the darkness is creating it for you is kind of how I felt.
And she's seeing some fucked up stuff when she's going down there. She finds the other tunnel and like obviously evidence that like people are being, held down here against their will. But anyway, so let's cut to the chase here. All of a sudden, big, enormous, naked, fucked up Hills Have Eyes looking giant tittied woman comes running out, big old swingers, and she comes flying out and just
had a chance with those things.
She
probably got back pain.
Oh yeah, I would imagine. Yeah, they probably each weigh about 40 pounds.
I mean, she's still a giant though, so she's
also about 7 foot. Like she looks like a giant monster. And she, obviously attacks them and then just bashes Billy Skateboard's brains in. And
which I thought was a good kill. I will.
Oh yeah, great one. Great kill. Great scene overall. And this was kind of maybe the height of the movie. I mean, they do a couple pretty wild things later that aren't as effective, but that are bold swings that I appreciated. This one is, this is the pinnacle of the movie in my mind. But yeah, so she fucks up old Billy skateboards, and then it's just like cut to 2 weeks later. So this is the psycho, treatment, whereas you get introduced to these characters, you think they're a big part of it, and all of a sudden they just die, and now you're just in a completely different direction. Now, of course, they eventually, cross paths later on, but you fast forward to 2 weeks later, and you get introduced to Justin Long's character, which I know that Justin Long has become kind of a weird. Like, he's the guy that a lot of like bro-y horror bros have a crush on. Like, they love Justin Long.
Well, I think it's because like when I was talking to someone else about this, and I think like a lot of people still associate him with like some more comedic or like rom-com type.
Sure,
roles.
It could be. I mean, I think Tusk.
So I think that's what they're Tusk too. Yeah, you don't fully take him seriously. Which is why I think it was still worth.
What was the other one? There's another. He was in another pretty big horror movie.
Jeepers Creepers.
Jeepers Creepers.
Oh, Jeepers Creepers. Of course, he's great in that.
But I thought that, I mean, these are two vastly different films that we're talking about, Tusk versus Jeepers Creepers, and I mean, Jeepers Creepers being the one that you're like, no, this is actually can be considered really scary, and I thought it was pretty scary when I watched it. Whereas Tusk is like, this feels satirical and just like fucking weird as shit. Yeah. And it's like,
but I love that it's played so straight. Yeah. That's the best thing about it.
No, and that's why it works.
But I mean, he's a great actor. I'm not going to lie. Like, he's a really, really great actor, and he's probably not in enough things. But he does usually pick pretty interesting projects. I find in at least in the horror genre. But he, I just notice a lot of like horror bros when I was like watching like people's reviews and stuff like this, that they were all like, fucking love Justin Long, he's my dude. Like, they just all kind of like love him.
He's also a douchebag in this movie, so it all is on brand.
Yeah.
All
and I don't know that.
I hear what you're saying.
I think he's, I am no, I'm not questioning that he's like, he's very like boyish, charming, handsome guy. But he plays a really great douchebag. So like, like in Tusk or,
in a Marry Fuck Kill, I would marry him. He's
a good looking, he's a handsome boy.
Yeah. Because he also has he has the comedic end to it, because I didn't really know him from Jeepers Creepers because I never got into those movies, but I knew him from Dodgeball,
and he was in Accepted. I don't know if you remember Accepted. That was like a college, funny college movie back in the day we watched as well. So but he was always this like, the handsome boy next door type of thing.
But I think you made a good point that he's chosen things, I think maybe in his older years, where are like he still appreciates the art of like film. And I think so that's why he's chosen it.
I think Jason Biggs stole too many of his roles, and that's why he isn't in as many things as he should be.
Probably.
I don't know where I saw it, but I think I saw that Zac Efron was sought out after for his role in this movie and turned it down.
Interesting.
He would have been good in the Bill Skarsgård role.
Yeah, actually.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
I feel like
he's too short. I can't take him seriously. He's too short.
People needed a Bill Skarsgård who had this like indie artistic identity. I think Zac Efron would have been more believable in the red herring aspect if he was in Keith's role. But I think you still needed Bill Skarsgård looks like he is in the music world. You know what I mean?
Zac Efron's too good looking. He takes me out of things. Like, he looks like a Ken doll kind of thing. So he just immediately looks like. Almost,
but in a Marry Fuck Kill, he would be the fuck. That's it. He would not be the man.
Yeah, he looks. He's like the bad guy. Yeah, he's the bad guy in like a comedy about like skiing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like, he's like, my dad owns a mountain. Like,
do you know who I am, bro?
Like.
Do you know who my dad is?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. We're all saying the same thing, guys.
Yeah, no, it's just funny to bag on Zac Efron because he has everything.
Yeah, he's
exactly.
He's very good looking. Fuck him.
It's called pretty privilege. Let's go.
But
none of us have.
He looks like Yeah, he looks like he's made of plastic, like not a real human. So getting back to Justin Long as AJ, he's this actor, and we pretty much learn right off the bat that he's like a total piece of shit, and he coerced or there was rape allegations by one of his co-stars on the show that he's on, and pretty much, I mean, we come to learn they're 100% founded.
Which I feel like it works for his role in this, but I felt like for the movie overall, we probably could have figured out that he's a douchebag in other ways. But I felt like that being such a high profile topic right now, maybe, I mean, what do you see? You're like giving a face. I'm curious.
I'm just thinking of the way. It totally worked. Like within the film, it works. I just don't think we needed to find, because like the way his character progresses is it starts with like, okay, all we're seeing in this scene that we're talking about now is just like there's people on his speakerphone. Like we don't see any of the interactions. Right. We never see the co-star that makes allegations against him. So like you have to kind of take him at face value of like he's making denial, and then he admits it. But then he tries in a way to make amends. And I'm jumping forward a little too much there, but like he tries to make amends.
But he doesn't, because he's doing it drunkenly. He's doing it in that.
Oh no, I wasn't even talking about that. I was talking about like way farther forward where they're.
We're talking like he's actually trying to.
Yeah,
try to be
he's like, maybe I was just a good person who made a bad decision. Maybe I'm a bad person, but I'm trying to do the right thing now.
But he doesn't. You know.
But he doesn't.
We're jumping ahead.
Yeah.
No, but so maybe it does work for his characters. It just felt like so on point for the time that they're definitely who in this movie they're trying to appeal to is like very relevant people who are into like understanding what's going on relevantly versus
But I think it sets up a good turn, then double turn.
No, I agree.
Is that he like he gets accused of something, and you're like, maybe he's a douchebag, admits it, he's a total douchebag, then comes back and says, maybe he's not a douchebag, he's trying to reform, and then the ending.
Right. Okay. Yeah, now I'm with you.
Yeah, it's like I think the place that it kind of paid off. I mean, yeah, he did have like an arc, not necessarily a positive one, but I think the thing that made sense was the fact that he all of a sudden became desperate. Like he was the guy on top of the world. Now all of a sudden he's becoming desperate in that he has owned this house. So anyway, you learn pretty quickly that AJ owns the house that Tess and Keith were in. He owns it in Detroit. He lives in LA. He's like a million miles away. He doesn't touch it, doesn't see it, doesn't do anything. But all of a sudden now he has to sell off a bunch of his real estate because he's in all this legal trouble. And he just got, lost his job and all this stuff.
I honestly think like this might be a weak point to the movie as well, of like understanding Chris. He's from Detroit, but why would he have ever invested in this neighborhood, knowing that the next basic series of the movie that we'll get into, that this neighborhood years and years and years ago was going downhill. So I feel like I don't
pre-investment.
No, but
pre-investment to resell.
I would get that if there was something else going. We're not given that information. Like I understand what you're saying when you say that, but somehow this house has been the only one preserved because someone's actually living in it. But like the neighborhood is still being seen as a very downtrodden, like we're not given the hints that there's somehow investment happening in this neighborhood. So that's why I'm just like,
no, I took it as he inherited it or something happened, and then he literally hasn't been there in decades. Like he doesn't see it, doesn't touch it,
like
doesn't even know barely where it is.
Because his money manager mentions he has like Michigan properties, so he has more than one. I just took it as like he bought a bunch of stuff in his local neighborhood as like investing in penny stocks. As hoping, you can turn one around at some point, but it's just holding on to them.
Yeah, I think the most, for me, the only part that was kind of unbelievable about this is like, would he really fly out just to do this? He wouldn't have his people who have been managing the properties and stuff do this.
Well, he was like, I feel like he was going to hide away. I think that was the way I took it.
Well, no, he was like measuring everything. I think he was getting ready to like sell it.
After he was there, you know what I mean? But based on what Steve said, though, too, you know. But I mean, I think it was a culmination of he has to sell a bunch of shit off, and he also wants to hide away. And because he talked to his mom the one time, and you know, you could tell that like she's like, you should come home, and you know, your dad wants to see you, and you can clearly see he has daddy issues of sorts. But but yeah, I guess that's what I took it as too. Is like, he's just an opportunistic person, but this space was just one of those places he could hide away and be close to home, be something close to familiar. And I got that hit because of him going out. I think he wanted something that would be comforting.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, he comes back to the house and he finds, you know, people's stuff still there. And he just figures that there's like squatters in his house, and looks around, nobody's there. And then he goes out, you know, drinking with his buddy, and basically, you know, is talking about the accusations, and again, tonight, he's all fucked up. And then he comes back to the house all hammered, and goes down in the basement. And why does he go down in the basement when he gets back? Is that what he's measuring? Is it?
Yeah, he's measuring it, but also he sees the door open. The door is propped open from Tess when he first arrives.
But it was at night.
And the lights on.
It could also be, because at night, it could also be the quote unquote barbarian of sorts. But anywho, I know that's what would make sense, is that he's seeing it because Tess was there. But anywho.
Yeah, so he goes down and finds the hidden door and the tunnel and all that stuff, and then finds this room that you see in, I think you saw it in the preview, which got like blankets all over the floor and stuff, and there's this little like TV playing in the corner about like breastfeeding like babies and stuff, and then he's chased by, then all of a sudden, you know, which I saw the character is named on IMDb, the mother.
Big titty mama.
She pops out, chases him. Big old swingers come flying out. And he runs away and falls into this pit, you know, kind of Buffalo Bill style pit. And Tess is down there, and she's alive. And she basically says like, shut the fuck up, calm down,
drink the milk, just drink it, like do
yes,
what?
Yeah.
Like,
she basically says like she wants to believe that you are her child. So just go along with it, kind of thing. The mother, she makes Tess drink, you know, milk, you know, bottle of milk, and then is, you know, kind of mothering her and stuff. And but then AJ won't do it. So she gets dragged to the room with the TV, and, you know, forces him to be, you know, breastfed with them. Like I said, those aforementioned big old swingers.
I feel like sorry to interrupt on this one, but this is the angle where I think I start having like a mild, I don't like the word emotional bond.
Like horny.
Nope.
Oh, sorry.
No, I mean, boobs are great, but I was not turned on by these ones. That's fine.
Well, that's pretty elitist.
You know what? Nope. No, I'm actually gonna go. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna keep moving on. No, I feel like
stop underground monster shaming.
Stop inbred giant underground monster shaming.
You know, to each their own. She's hot and nasty at one point. Is that there's like this emotional bond.
She's so dirty, dude. I like stringy hair. Yeah. That's my thing.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think it was the teeth for me.
Strong teeth, yeah.
So I think you start getting this emotional bond. So you start building this other layer, like before we really even understand why this thing is down there. You're like, oh, something has happened. And maybe it's like the femme part of me where I'm like having this like emotional bond with like this motherly character where I'm like, oh no, this thing is not actually that terrible. It just wants to mother things and wants to take care of something because of whatever traumatic things it's going through. So again, and I mean, it's backed up. I think one of the last scenes is probably one of the last times I could say what I'm saying right now, where I'm like, oh wow, I actually have feelings. I have a feeling. Yeah, I have feelings for this character right now, and I don't know why.
Yeah, it's also almost a Frankenstein-ish type of thing.
Yeah, because I mean, it hasn't been expressed at the moment, but like you have to assume like there's something else behind all this, because there's no way this barely verbal inbred monster has created this underground network of tunnels and just like created all these things around it. So like there's obviously something behind it. You just don't know what it is yet, but you learn shortly.
Yeah, we learn very soon now, for sure.
Yeah. So Tess escapes at this point. AJ's really getting the business, so she escapes. This is when Andre, I'm trying to remember, he ends up in the house, the homeless guy. He ends up. Okay, how do they end up meeting at this point?
I think we missed it in the beginning where she's chased when she first gets back from that interview. And I think it's Andre.
Yeah.
It
is. Yeah, we mentioned it earlier. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So like,
I think what we're skipping over Richard Brake getting introduced.
No.
This comes up here in a second.
I thought he came up before she escaped.
No, because this is the point where Andre basically like explains the lore a little bit, and like basically says like you got to get the fuck out of here before it's dark because this monster comes out at night.
Okay.
And he basically is like, you're fucking stupid if you try to go back in there and save AJ. And then she like tries to explain what's happening to the cops and all that, and then that's when you get like that's when you get the flashback.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, because she escapes. She breaks like the basement window and climbs out, and then walks to town. Yeah.
Yep. And he does this. He goes as far as to say like, which got me all excited. And then we didn't really. Because he says something about like talking about the mother. It's like she's not even the worst thing down there. And which I was like, oh, that was sweet. That was like almost this Lovecraftian type of thing. But you never really. I mean, he could have been referring to Frank. Of course. Yeah, which is probably the case. But I got all excited because I was like, ooh, more like crazy, like bigger titty monsters.
maybe she has a brother.
Taller. Wait, would his dick have been so big? He's got a lot of hugging, swinging things.
Could have been.
All right.
Yeah. These people got a bunch of swingers down there. But so yeah, and then I kind of already said, he basically says like, don't fucking go down there, don't go back in there, get the fuck out of town. And they try to, explain, she tries to like basically tell these two like very jaded, like asshole cops, and they're basically like, fuck off. Detroit
too. They're like, this neighborhood's bullshit, whatever. There's always shitty things happen. Fuck you guys.
Yeah, they just have written off this neighborhood, right? So then this is when you get a flashback and you start to get everything kind of explained to you. So it shows, back in is it like the late 70s, early 80s kind of thing, I guess?
It's early 80s because they mentioned Reagan on the radio.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And they show the house's original owner, which, of course, is Richard Brake as Frank. And Frank was a like super fucked up, sadistic serial murderer and rapist that just abducted like dozens and dozens, assumedly, of young women, and held them down in like rooms within these like catacombs under his house. Obviously like raped and had forced them to have children, and then he had children with those children. And so anyway, you're talking about like decades and within those decades, multiple generations of like super inbred, fucked up offspring that this guy Frank has created and held in his basement. And now
that's so gross, because it
now
just, like,
the origin of the mother.
Yeah, because it's like the way the way it was just always described it. It's like wasn't just like a single inbreeding situation. It's like inbreeding upon inbreeding upon inbreeding. You're like, oh, like this is, oh god.
But like this thing is like, by that point, wouldn't again, she obviously the mother, she's very like deformed and fucked up and stuff. But like, I'm pretty sure she wouldn't be 8 foot tall and super strong. Like, I'm pretty sure she'd just have like bird bones and her teeth would fall out and, have
and a bleeding disorder,
whacked out poo brains and only live to be
He
6.
probably definitely would have had white eyes or something.
Yeah. I don't think you get super strength from that.
But it's called evolution, survival of the fittest. All the genes that we need to survive in an underground dwelling survive.
She absolutely has a vitamin D deficiency. There's
listen, Meg, for someone who loves incest as much as you, I would think that you had a better understanding of what incest causes. I mean, look at Prince Charles,
right now,
King Charles. He's got giant sausage fingers. Just look at him. He's got a goddamn no chin. He's got a fucking.
I'm making a joke, Brian.
Underbite.
You are getting so serious about incest because you are very sincerely concerned about it.
Well, I mean, it's like the Habsburg, offspring type of thing of like the old like Austro-Hungarian Empire, and they all like had bird bones and got locked in the basement and shit like that. But this one got 8 foot tall and super strong.
The room we were missing was that there is an actual gym down there.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, she had a set of kettlebells.
Deleted scenes.
Kettlebells. Her tits are kettlebells.
They cut off tits from the last wife,
and that's the
kettlebells.
Biobells.
If you have bigger titties than the one before, you're the one who dies next for the bigger kettlebells. You know?
Yes. That's why she always wants to get the milk out of there because
we need a set. We need a set.
We need a set. So we need a set. I mean, an absolute unit of a set.
Big old set of big old set of sandbags to carry around.
Yeah.
I would have not survived down there. This is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I would have got eaten pretty quick. I mean, I'll drink a lot of milk, but not that much milk. So anyway, when that's AJ's trying to escape, and finds the room that the mother was like didn't want to go in basically, and he finds Frank, Richard Brake's character, but he's like completely immobile and like all just like old and fucked up. He can't move, really, or anything like that. And he finds all these videotapes, and it's Frank, and all his victims, and it's just, obviously super, super fucked up. And AJ, and how does Frank end up getting the gun?
Because he's asking for water. And then, like, he's nonverbal essentially, and then he's pointing at the end
he's
table.
Just all gooned up.
And he sends AJ puts the end table next to him.
That's right.
And he just gets a pistol.
Grabs it. I just find it so interesting at that point where how quickly he decided that, like, what had happened previously to make this situation where they somehow escaped is now the time that he needs to kill himself.
No, I took it as he's been basically rotting away down there, and the mother has been probably doing like the bare minimum to keep him alive, like giving him food occasionally and water occasionally or something like that, but he's like a complete invalid, like he can't move, he can't do anything, so his quality of life is like fucked. But
at that point the ego in such a like murderous rapist, I just don't see that being the case of like you wanting to kill yourself outside of that you somehow know that you're kind of caught.
I think he became a prisoner of his own device in that he became, something happened, like he had a stroke or something, and there's no one there to help him and no one there to hear him because he's underground and whatever. So he's been down there just surviving in this like living hell for however long, and he just wants to die. But he can't get to the gun because he can't move.
Sympathetic you sound to him right now.
No, I'm just saying, I think that's his feeling. I think that's his motivation for killing himself. Maybe. I don't think it has anything to do with anybody escaping. I think he's just like, I want out of this.
I just feel like there's so much ego in like everything. Just imagine like other stories we would hear of the same situation. It's like, I think there's just too much ego for that to fully make sense to me, which again, I'm only going to call it out as maybe a weak point.
Well, no, he's literally a vegetable. Like
he is. I get what you're saying, but I still think if he has survived to this point, like and he can still do what he does. I mean, I guess he can't. Obviously,
Well, he can't.
but
That's the
but
thing.
like, I still think there's this ego to just survive and exist. You know, that it doesn't.
I think it's more self. Like, I think it's more self. It's just self-interest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The things that he's done throughout the years.
So
yes,
maybe
I'm
it's
sure
now
there
a
was
decision just to be like, nope, I'm good now. Like, I can't can't rape people anymore.
Yeah, he can't do the things that he did to satisfy all these, urges and stuff that he had. So he's just like, I'm done. There's nothing else left. Frank offs himself. And AJ obviously didn't know there was a gun present. And he grabs it. And then gets the hell out of there, or tries to get back to the tunnels, I guess, at that point. And the mother goes out, I guess, to find Tess or to find other victims. I don't really know, but I do. I guess I like the idea that it goes out at night and like snatches people up. Because, like, imagine walking down like a dark street with no street lights in the middle of this like fucked up neighborhood, and all of a sudden this like 7 foot tall, naked, crazy, deformed person comes out of the shadows. Like, that'd be that's a scene that I would have loved to saw.
I mean, if we know her motivation is to be a mother, but she's still murderous, like, I think this is just an interesting dynamic to her character that I don't think was well fleshed out in this, and like her motivation, because she didn't. I mean, does she know who Andre is? Does she, like, why did she decide? Because we're getting to the point where, okay, Tess is out. So basically AJ gets trigger happy when Tess tries to go back and find him, and he shoots her. And this is that moment we talked about earlier where he tries to have that redeeming factor where he's like, I want to be a good person. This is an actual accident. I'm so sorry. I want to make it right. I want to get I want to get you help. Let's get out of here. And then obviously the mother comes out after them. AJ finds them and is like, takes them in, but she finds them and she immediately kills Andre.
Yeah. So this was like, I'm trying to think of what happens first. It's like, so after AJ leaves, because Tess is basically waiting for the mother to leave the house and then hits her with the car.
Right.
And you think, well, you don't think she's dead. They try to play that she's dead, but you're pretty, she's not dead.
Yeah, she pins her to the house with the truck. So it's not like a thing where she ran over her and ran her head over or something like that. She pinned her to the wall, and you're probably sure that she's just stuck and alive.
Yeah. But then she goes in to find AJ at this point, and then that's when AJ accidentally shoots her. He comes back, he doesn't assume it's Tess, but he's a fucking idiot and he just starts blasting and shoots Tess, not like mortally wounding her, but and then they both fuck off out of the house, and when they get out of the house they find that the mother is gone, and Andre finds them and basically, explains what we already have come to pretty much learn is that, it's this just like this deformed. So she basically, not only is she huge and like super strong, apparently, which she like rips Andre's arm off
that
at this
was pretty
point.
Sick though, honestly. I think that it was like a weird odd moment, but I really actually liked that.
Yeah, it was the only thing to me that I walked out going like, well, that didn't make any damn sense. That's cool if she's really big and strong in the sense that she could like smash Billy Skateboard's head off the wall and stuff like that. Like, that's fine, and drag people around and manhandle them, but ripping someone's arm off, like, that's a step too far for me. That's like X-Men shit. Like, I don't know.
That's Jason shit.
Yeah, that's Jason shit. That's Jason Voorhees shit, which is that one was a little much, but it was cool. Like, the effects and stuff are good.
And it's so played for comedy. Like this whole scene I don't love because it starts with the close-up pan around of Justin Long giving this monologue about wanting to be a good person, or am I a bad person, and that is so over the top.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you probably can't trust this guy. That's too much. That's too much. You're overselling it. And then
he's also an actor, so maybe.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, his character is an actor. So, like, yeah, he's overselling it.
Yeah.
But then it cuts to this shot, or like they ask how is the mother not coming in or whatever. And Andre is framed in this flat comedic frame.
Yeah.
Like it's perfectly straight on.
Yeah.
And you know exactly what's about to happen because he says
it's the frame that somebody normally is in before they get hit by a car.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a Buster Keaton frame is what it is because he's perfectly centered for the action.
Yeah,
and he's like, "Oh, I've been living here for 15 years, and she ain't never come in here."
Oh,
and then the wall busts out.
Yeah,
right.
Immediately.
Yeah, she Kool-Aid mans it through the wall, and oh yeah, we should probably say at this point that like she has. I mean, it's assumed that she has the brain function of like an animal, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this is
like she has the verbality of just like everything is
yeah,
and it's like okay, well you weren't taught well.
yeah well, and also you have whacked out poo brains because all the inbreeding.
Whacked out poo brains.
Yeah, so we had so she chases them up a water tower, which okay.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. And there's like this moment where she's like climbing up the water tower after them, and AJ just yeets Tess off the water tower, basically to like throw her, like, eat her, basically.
He sets it up.
Or save your baby.
He says so perfect. He's like, if we were in reverse roles kind of thing, you would do the same. You're like, no, maybe this is me. Like,
he's justifying the whole thing. And this whole thing is like, there's a lot of stuff, especially with Justin Long, that is played for laughs a little bit. Like even like obviously the scene with the we're about to get to an even more so scene like that. But even when he was doing the measuring, the measuring of the dimensions of the house, preparing to sell, there was like a lot of, comedic beats in there, but
we didn't fully touch on it though, because like that was when he was actually seeing the murder room or like the rape room of sorts.
Yeah.
And instead of being like, oh my God, this is a rape room.
Instead of running out of that room.
Oh my God, do I have more room in this house? Can I make more money off of it?
Is this more square footage?
Like you're kind of like, oh my God.
Yeah. He's a total piece of dog shit. Yeah. Just irredeemable piece of dog shit. So, like I said, AJ yeets Tess off the water tower, and then the mother like dive bombs off after Tess, and like basically becomes like the thing that the firemen use to like break your fall when you're jumping out of a burning building. But she's like flying. Like it almost looks like she's flying.
It wasn't. I feel like overall, if we're looking at this like respectably, it's not a great scene, but at the same time, I loved it. I loved it.
No, it's almost like she's like a flying squirrel, like an 8-foot tall giant flying squirrel.
Are just still there. You're still seeing all the things flopping, and it was just like, so to me, it was like a funny scene, but it wasn't a great scene.
No.
Well, the physics of it is you're saying, because Tess goes off the tower first, so you're saying that the mother jumps down faster than gravity.
Yeah. Like
to get underneath of Tess.
Right. Yeah. Like this doesn't scientifically make sense. Maybe it was the tits, guys.
Well, this is how I took it, because, that's the old thing is like, if you drop a penny and a bowling ball, out of a tree first or at the same time, which hits the ground first, and it's, neither. They hit at the same time. It doesn't matter, how heavy you are necessarily. Exactly. But in this instance, for her to catch up to her, she would have had to do that thing that they do in like James Bond movies, where
exactly,
you know what I mean? Like where they're always like jumping out of an airplane, but then if you like turn yourself into like a bullet bill and like point your body, you can go super fast.
Okay, guys, I have a theory. Jetpack titties.
Yeah.
Jetpack titties.
Yeah, that's a band name for sure.
The milk expressed. There was so much pressure behind her titties that it pushed her down faster.
Yeah, there you go.
Also now understanding that I'm just going to go with titties save lives is really what I'm getting after here.
Yeah.
Because the mother getting
I'm
underneath.
imagining as she's jumping, she's farting and just projecting herself down with a giant inbred fart.
Whole jetpack, let's go. But then like she becomes this protective thing again.
Yeah,
Kitties save lives, y'all.
Yeah. Big. I mean, like big 40-pound tits. Like you need those when you're falling from a height.
I understand. I understand that life.
But so then AJ has this like basically, like you said, he's like, well, you would have did in the same situation or whatever. And then the mother is like, wait, I'm still alive. Hey, and just pops up and then gouges out AJ's eyes, which is that's always good. A great satisfying kill when someone you really hate gets their eyes gouged out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and then splits his skull.
Yeah, you love to see it. Just
thinking back, I couldn't have imagined Zac Efron in this role because I feel like Justin Long is like adorable boy next door enough where he could still be a douchebag and you can hate him and believe it. Whereas I think Zac Efron would have been harder to hate and you would have been like, this seems too fake. You know what I mean?
See, it's the other way around for me. I think I would have hated Zac Efron more, but he's not nearly as good of an actor as Justin Long.
Sure.
But Zac Efron, who else would it have been? Like, it does feel like someone who's like stupidly handsome would have been a great option. But like, I don't know. He doesn't seem. I don't know. Zac Efron. I don't think I've ever seen a movie that I liked him in ever.
You know who else could have played the the Justin Long role? I think would have worked pretty decently. Jesse Eisenberg.
Oh yeah, I could see that a little bit. Yeah, it's funny because Justin Long, I like when he first came on the scene with like dodgeball and stuff, I would have put him in the Jesse Eisenberg and the what's the kid from super bad, not Jonah Hill, but the other one, Michael Cera. I would have put all three of them in that like lovable, cute dork kind of, waters. And then Michael Cera, with a few exceptions, pretty much stayed on that path forever.
Yeah.
And then Justin Long switched it up. Like he plays bad guys too. Right. So I think that's, and I don't know if that speaks to like more of a range as an actor. I kind of get the feeling of those three people we mentioned, Justin Long's probably the best actor. But I don't know. I would have clumped all three of those together. Like Jesse Eisenberg's good, but
we've seen him in bad roles. I feel like it was a Marvel role. Like he played.
Well, I mean, that sucks because you're thinking of when he played Lex Luthor.
Well, no, I mean, I'm saying like he had the. Yeah, like he had the capability even to like play a bad person role.
Right, but I think the better example of that is The Social Network.
Sure. Yeah,
because he's a real piece of shit in that movie.
Well, no. I think that I totally could agree that was probably a better example. But like, all I'm saying is like I think Michael Cera. I don't think I've ever seen him in a role where he might have been like a bad character.
He was that movie, This Is the End.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Wasn't he a big piece of shit?
Well, and that was the joke, is he's like America's sweetheart, but he's like a total piece of shit in the movie.
Yeah.
So like, and everyone else who you would have thought might have been like total pieces of shit in the movie are like, they kind of all are, I guess, a little bit, but the idea is like the guy who you would think is the one nice guy of the group is the biggest piece
worst.
Of shit. Yeah.
Because he's raw dogging chicks and drinking out of jute boxes.
Yeah. And he's just like doing a bunch of coke and just like getting fucking out of control. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I could see Jesse Eisenberg, I think, is too nerdy. Like he couldn't play leading man. Like he couldn't play handsome, stud sitcom star leading man kind of guy. I don't know. Maybe he could. But
I don't know.
Anyway, he so we're kind of in the last couple minutes of the movie here, but the mother, she wakes up after, gouges out AJ's eyes and fucks his head all up, and then she takes Tess back. She's going to take her back to the house, which is what she came to do. Tess, kind of unexpected. I didn't see this coming, I'll be honest. Tess, still has Frank's gun, which you didn't know. And shoots her in the head.
Yeah. Which is like where this is like the last moment where I had that emotional connection. I was like, she was like baby, you're like, her intentions with Tess were always still genuine, because Tess was always kind of like, I get what's happening here, and I get that she's not actually going to hurt me because I know what she wants. And then all of a sudden you get that moment and she's like, nope, yeah, motherfucker. So I got kind of sad for 2 seconds, but knowing that this creature should have fucking died because she was going to do some bad shit. Anywho.
Yeah, quality of life probably wasn't that great down there or anything either.
Yeah, I mean, living in tunnels, I've heard, is not great.
Also, Tess was about to start a new job. She can't be living in a tunnel when she's got to go to work for the documentary.
She probably missed the start date because was in the tunnel for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
She missed the phone call.
Well, and also, I got to assume that, how is an 8-foot tall giant monster woman surviving in that basement? She's got to be eating people, right? I'm assuming she's eating people.
Cannibal.
Or garbage.
That's an interesting angle.
Or she's out eating garbage like a damn 8-foot giant tittied raccoon out in people's trash cans at night.
This is a Crimes of the Future twist where she's like adapted to eat something completely different.
Like rocks. She's just eating rocks.
Yeah. Or actually, the other houses. She's eating the other houses.
That's what happened to the other houses. Yeah.
She's eating insulation.
Yeah.
Can I pose something to the group?
I would love for you to.
Because there is something that really bugs me about this film that is kind of like a plot hole almost.
Okay.
Twice in the film, we are introduced to the listing agent, the person who is renting out the house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the person denies Tess and Bill's skateboard, like when they're talking about the double booking, and she just kind of hangs up on them and leaves them on hold, doesn't address it. And then when AJ tries to call her, she says, oh, this hasn't been rented out at all, despite the fact she previously acknowledged that it had been rented out.
Okay, I hear you.
So this is what I'm proposing. The person on the other line of this call is the one who's actually the caretaker of the house. She might be the mother of the mother.
I would go along with that. Is that I feel like if the plot hole that I think that we have to put together that it was not given to us is that exactly what you just said is what as soon as you said it, I'm like, would make total sense to me if that was the case. It was one of like the mothers or someone of the family, or there was something missing with Frank's character that was like,
yeah, that's what I thought. It was like she was
maybe.
Well, not or just someone that like was in cahoots with Frank somehow.
Yeah, because if we take it at face value of that, when she tells AJ that the house hadn't been rented out for however long, like, then who the fuck was putting the listing up?
Okay, so here again, I like that you pointed this out, because I think the only other character, so when we didn't fully touch on Frank's little story there, but we like in his story, the one house that he went to that he ended up opening the window to and left, there was nothing else after that, but what we assume is that he is going to go into this house. He is going to like capture this person and torture them and possibly kill them, rape them, whatever it is. Like, where is that character? Could that be a like Stockholm syndrome? Shout out to Scandinavia again. Like character that could be somehow related.
Yeah, and AJ does find her dress later in the basement. So,
that's true. I always I mean, during the movie, I didn't really think about that too much. I mean, it could be that it's one of those things. I also just took it as like there was no like in a neighborhood like this, like there was one decent house in the neighborhood, and like somebody was, so they were doing something sketchy on the side where they had basically created an Airbnb account for this place and were just letting people stay there and pocketing the money instead of actually trying to rent it out like they said they were going to. I don't know. I just took it as like, this is a fucked up neighborhood. They do what they want. It's the fucking Wild West out here.
Yeah.
So
yeah, maybe I'm wrong and the timeline makes sense, but it just feels like it doesn't make sense to me. Maybe I missed something, but yeah, I feel like maybe that lady on the other line had something to do with all this.
I mean, we look at the character list. Was Kate Bosworth's character Melissa, who was on the phone with AJ. I'm trying to like put two and two together because I forget the names of like the people he was on the phone with while seeing characters on this list and seeing like, who could be that person that could have been like, who was the real estate agent? Like, which one was it?
Yeah, I mean, it could have been Melissa, because I'm trying to think, because Catherine was the documentary director. Mm-hmm. And then AJ's mom is listed as AJ's mom. So, yeah, maybe it's the other one. It could be is Sarah Paxton.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
No, what about Bonnie Zane? Like Sophie Sorensen?
Sarah Paxton was was in the nursing video. Doing the voice in there. She was also AJ's assistant, I think.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So, yeah. Well, I mean, she has like 3 different credits. So,
Mm-hmm. She played a few different parts, but she wouldn't have been the real estate person, I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I see like a Bonnie Zane down at the bottom with Sophie Sorensen, and that was, I feel like there's just a couple things. I'm glad you pointed out that plot hole because I think that's a pretty significant one that, again, I think it just weakens the movie overall.
Yeah. Just the other thing that just like kind of threw me is like the ending, kind of that last 30 minutes. It felt like a sprint, and you kind of alluded to it earlier, Meg, is saying like how, once they give up the ghost and you find out what everything is, then it just kind of moves because it's trying to not be boring because you now know all the tricks behind everything. But like it just felt too fast to me. It felt like just like a total sprint of like, okay, well, they got to get out of the basement, then they got to get to the tower, then they got to fall off the tower, then they kill, and then it's over.
Yeah.
Where like everything up to that has been so lingering, and again, back to that darkness and oppression, it is so much like the first half of The Descent, and like they take all that time following Richard Brake's character through the 1980s, and it's all just a lot of lingering and, not a whole lot happening. And then it turns into a sprint. And it's kind of like...
I could only imagine like how that ending would have felt, though, if they didn't do that. But I agree. I'm with you. Like I said, I already said it. Like it just felt like, let's just get to this end. Like we know what's going to happen. Just how does it happen?
I have a feeling the director's cut of this movie was probably like 2.5 hours long.
Totally.
And then they were like, well, guys, if we're going to do a theatrical, we got to keep it under 2 hours. And they just cut a bunch of shit out of it.
Possible. Yeah.
Yeah. Because they obviously based the marketing really like on the setting up that there was going to be a twist. Like to get people in, you got, Bill Skarsgard, you got people, in the theater. Now you're going to get the buzzworthiness because you're going to do this big old, twist that, and if you look online right now, like I know it's in the theaters right now, but like you could tell they have done a lot of effort to kind of suppress the big twist thing that's happening, which, I mean, I think it's just, a big studio knows how to, market it and sell tickets kind of thing. So it does feel fast towards the end. And I have a feeling that's probably because they were like, we got to keep this under 2 hours so people come see it.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Probably.
But anyway, so but you do get that like final, scene of Tess, walking off, all fucked up and, traumatized by the whole situation. So
it'd be really fun if we could just end this like, did she get the job?
Yeah. And then fast forward to like she got the job, piece of shit job, shouldn't even applied for it.
She's living in the house.
Yeah.
See, I was surprised that they didn't do something with that, and like that it like she brought the documentary team back to the house because like that's a story, but whatever.
Yeah. You almost expected there to be like a post-credit sequence or something that wasn't there.
And then there's like a jump scare because they bring the documentary team back to the basement to check everything out. And then, there's a brother.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they just get slapped in the face with a big old titty. And
it'd be a dick at that point. It's the brother.
Just big old mushroom stamp on the camera lens.
Too? Wow.
Yeah, maybe. Hey,
come on.
Yeah,
Like,
you don't
big old
know
hog.
if inbreeding can
Second
make
time I've
you
said that today, but in three different references.
a big old hog. Yeah, I mean, listen. At this point, if living in this cinematic universe, inbreeding can literally do anything.
Mm-hmm.
It can make you 8 foot
I don't
tall,
know
super
why
strong.
you're coming after me about incest when you just said what you just said. So fuck you.
What I'm saying is, this movie is stupid in that it says that. Yeah.
Much the same way The Hills Have Eyes made a lot of people overly strong.
Yeah.
But that was also radiation inbreeding. So
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
there was some
Radiation does
nuclear
wonders
shit
for
happening.
inbreeding, guys.
mhm.
Yeah, makes makes the sperm strong.
Gives the
That's what I
sperm
was-
3 tails.
You guys seen that fish on The Simpsons? I mean, it's
Oh,
very much
God,
like
yeah.
Mhm.
that. All right, guys,
Let's
that
stop
was
talking about this one. Yeah.
that was Barbarian. Overall, fun flick. Happy I
Yeah.
saw it. Does it deserve the crazy hype that it's getting?
Maybe not.
Probably not. Not in my mind. It was fine. It was good. It's a good movie. Totally enjoyable. Happy I saw it. People were talking about it's the best horror movie of 2022 and all this stuff. And like,
It's good though.
yeah, it's good.
I just want to meet the people who have been hyping it. Like, I just feel like those are bought and sold ads. Like, that's what makes me so mad.
Well, they all do that. Like that old adage of like, this is the scariest movie since The Exorcist and all this shit you see. And like, okay.
But then it makes me respect people less, Brian.
Mm.
I already don't respect a lot I people, so that just makes me respect people I should respect less.
I know. Horror marketing has become like a very strange thing. That's why the movies that I tend to really end up liking are, with the exception of Malignant, are not, significant budget films that have any type of promotion. So I can go in with no expectations.
I prefer to see the list of like underrated or underhyped movies because I found a couple of good ones on there in the past. You know what I mean? Like, great, like people who are like actually watching movies and being like, let's actually look at the scare factor here. This would have not been it. I think they needed to do it to sell the movie. But anywho, I don't want to talk too much shit because I did like a lot of things about it. And like I said before, cinematography was really interesting and cool. And I felt like created this sense, the music and like the soundscape was like great for it. It definitely makes you feel things throughout it.
Production was almost kind of A24-y, I would say, in the first half of the movie.
Sure.
In the first half, I would say like the music really, really sells this film. It's so John Carpenter-esque, but it's also like, again, it beats you over the head in a lot of scenes, which it goes perfectly with a lot of cinematography. So yeah.
It's very abrasive. It's very like claustrophobic. You're trapped. You feel trapped in every scene.
You guys are both more versed in like obviously like movies in general, but I'm curious like if you've seen that sort of movement with like the camera shots because I feel like there was movement throughout it that I hadn't really personally experienced yet that I liked.
I would say a lot of films do that. This was interesting because when they switched to that Richard Brake flashback, it changes the lens to a fisheye lens, and it almost feels like a fucking music video.
Yeah, it's
It
Truman
was a
Show.
little
It felt
too
like you're
much.
in Truman Show all of a sudden or something.
Yeah.
That was shot strangely. The one thing that I thought was pretty good was like the way they shot lighting was really good. I felt like when you walked in and Bill Skarsgard sitting by the kid, they obviously used it to smooth out some of the weird edges that would have been there, with a lower budget film, like especially like the outdoor scene. Like you would have been able to tell if it wasn't pitch black and raining for the most part that all those other houses just like weren't real. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they did a really great job. Felt like it was a lot more believable with the lighting and stuff. But from a like shot composition perspective, the one thing that I didn't think about when I was watching it, but I saw somebody in an interview talk about that. I was like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Was how they really tried to make everybody and everything, whether it be the house or anything, like dwarf Tess. Like they always tried to make her look small in comparison, and it was this whole idea of like everything is a threat to her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so she's like obviously being super diligent about the whole thing. So it was like, and I listened to Zach Cregger talk about how, you know, he wanted it to see like she did everything right pretty much for them, you know, for the most part. And then, you know, ultimately was still victimized in this way or whatever. But then he also, it was weird. So I'll say this, and not to end on a negative note, because like I said, I like the movie, but listening to him talk about the movie made me like it less because first of all, I don't love saying this, but he seems like kind of a fucking douchebag.
He kind of,
yeah. And then also he was like talking about all this symbolism of the snake and the mongoose.
Well, like, imagine that's like what you said. This is his first feature film too. Imagine like he's like overly artistic of sorts type vibe.
He's kind of been that way. Like I used to watch. They would do live streams because like they were working on other Whitest Kids U Know projects.
Oh yeah,
and they were funding them by doing like these live streams. But sometimes just listening to him talk, he sometimes feels like he's up his own ass a lot.
Oh yeah, so. Very like masturbatory, like Hollywood Insider. You know, he talks like somebody who's doing an impression of a screenwriter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a little much. But, you know, he's talking about all this like symbolism and all this type of stuff. And I was like, oh, God. So I will probably never watch this movie again for that reason. It's just like because now I'm just going to equate it with him kind of sounding like a douchebag. But you know what? If he comes out with another movie, you know, I'm sure he'll get an opportunity to direct another horror movie after this one's been such a success. I'll definitely go see it.
Sure.
So,
yeah, I think he's talented. It's just like sometimes listening to him talk is grating. Yeah. To end on a further down note, past Brian, to take it further, if you want to look into a real life case, it's the story of Joseph Fritzl. It was he was just this Austrian monster who like held his daughter and their incestuous kids in a basement, like cavernous structure that he built himself.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So I think this movie is probably based on that, at least in part. Just with the, you know, the parallels between like incestuous kids and incest with your kids, and then, you know, basement structures. It's just like, ugh.
Yeah.
Word.
Super unpleasant.
Yeah. It's pretty fucked up story. Like I said, they do inject some levity to make it not just feel completely icky the entire time. But yeah, absolutely worth a watch. I mean, now that you've listened to this, if you hadn't watched it before this and now you were spoiled, maybe it's not as worth it as it was before. But yeah, like I said, totally enjoyed the film and would see something else by Zach Cregger. So, and the performances really, you know, to reiterate, the performances really are what, you know, put it over the top, I think, for me. Because if you had that whole thing that happened with, you know, Billy Skateboards and Tess, and then all of a sudden you're just jolted into another scene that far in, if the characters in that were lame and not entertaining, you'd be like, oh, fuck. You know what I mean? but you know, what's his name? Oh my God, I've said his name 100 times. Justin Long. He does a great job. So he keeps you interested.
Indeed.
So, all right, guys, that is Barbarian 20 and 22. Remember, guys, go ahead and follow us on the old social medias for updates as far as when episodes release, but they typically release on Monday. And if you've got any suggestions for us, we're starting to plan out everything that's going to be happening for the balance of the year here, guys. If you got any suggestions around certainly spooky season, but also right after that, guys, we'll be hopping into Thanksgiving horror. We'll be hopping into some fucking Christmas horror, which is one of my favorite subgenres. So if you have any type of topics to chat about for that, you know, that remainder of the year, please throw them in the old DMs and give us some suggestions. We love to do those if we can. So anything else I'm forgetting?
No.
That's pretty much it. All right, well, join us next week, boys and ghouls, for another Minisode, and then the week after that for our showdown episode. And for the Halloween Forever crew, I'm Brian.
I'm Meg.
I'm Steve.
All right, see you around. Bye.
They-